Hello, you're watching the business headlines on HW News with me, Ali Azhar. After the Asian Development Bank, the OECD, which is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and the World Bank, who, if I may add, are all prestigious multilateral agencies, after all of them independently lowered India's GDP growth projections for the current year significantly, citing various reasons, it's now time for the biggest and most reputable of the lot to do the same: the International Monetary Fund. The IMF on Tuesday cut India's growth by an entire 0.9% from 7% earlier to 6.1% for the current financial year 2019-20. This would qualify as the second time in 7 months that the forecast has been cut. Its chief economist, Indian-born Geeta Gopinath, pointed out what we've been harping on for some months now, saying it's mostly a demand problem. The agency had a weaker than expected outlook for domestic demand and consumption, and also said that one of the main reasons is that it is being pulled down by the ailing NBFCs, among others. The general business sentiment is low, and no one is spending on any discretionary items, but only on essential items. So, you have people deferring decisions to buy cars, luxury items, spending on vacations, and non-essential goods and services. It's when people have disposable income in their pockets beyond what they need for their personal necessities, such as food, clothing, and shelter. It's only then will they go out and spend freely, which will then lead to a pickup in consumption, which will then lead to an uptick in demand, which would then finally lead to a revival in the economy. The 2019 winner of the Nobel Prize for Economics, Abhijit Banerjee, recently flagged the same concern as the World Bank, stating that the government's main focus has to be on reviving demand. Monetary balance should take a backseat. Anyway, getting back to what the IMF had to say. They say that the benefits of the recent tax cuts and the reduction in interest rates by the RBI are not expected to kick in immediately, and advised India to go in for further reforms such as labour reforms, land acquisition reforms, and reduce the role of public sector banks in financial markets. A silver lining in an otherwise gloomy environment was that the IMF expects economic growth to recover to 7% in the next financial year, though this pace is still slower than the earlier prediction of 7.2%, but we'll take it. Now, moving on to the global scenario. To be fair, this hasn't fared very well either. Saying that the global economy is in a synchronized slowdown, the multilateral agency has cut global forecasts by 0.2%, that is from 3.2% to 3%, making it the slowest pace since the global financial crisis of 2008, which is a worrying sign. Also, this would qualify as a serious climb down from the impressive 3.8% growth witnessed in 2017. The causes, as you can guess, is the US-China trade war, which is by the way estimated to reduce world GDP by a staggering 0.8%, as well as other geopolitical factors, such as Brexit. So this was the scenario in India and the world. Now understand a very important fallout as a result of the uncertainty faced by Indian and the global economy, which is exports and imports. Beginning with exports. Exports of goods have declined 6.57% on a year-on-year basis to the total of $26.03 billion for the month of September. Means there's a negative growth of 6.57%. Outbound shipments of petroleum products and labor-intensive sectors such as engineering items, which accounts for nearly 25% of forex earned, ready-made garments and leather products, and gems and jewelry have all fallen. Interestingly, the pace of gems and jewelry exports have been hit as availability of funds dried up in the aftermath of the Nirav Modi scam. The president of the Federation of Indian Exports Organization, Mr. Sharad Kumar Saraf, said the softening of commodity prices, including crude oil, US-China trade war, Brexit, and the developments in Iran, Turkey, and other Gulf nations have further aggravated the problem of the world economy. The data released by the Commerce Ministry recently showed that the trade slowdown was rather broad-based. That is, an unprecedented 23 out of 30 key items contracted. This decline in goods trade is the latest in a series of crucial indicators, which includes the like of industrial output shrinking the most in 81 months in August, and also GDP growth being the lowest in 6 years. However, policymakers can draw some comfort from the fact that services exports grew at a decent pace of 10.4% in August. Another worrying sign was that the World Trade Organization, or the WTO, recently cut its global trade growth forecast for this year to the weakest level in a decade, shedding light on the precarious times we live in today. Then, moving on to imports, it has contracted for the fourth straight month in September by 13.85%. When imports reduce by so much, it proves beyond doubt that there's a shortage of demand for both consumer and industrial items, which is a hallmark of a slowdown. According to the same data released by the Commerce Ministry, the import of 25 out of 30 products dropped. The largest component of the import bill, which is crude oil, fell by 18% in September. Further, the second largest item on the import bill, which is gold, shrank by a massive 50.8% in September, against an even more massive 62.5% in August. This, in spite of it being the festive season, when usually imports spike as jewelers replenish inventory to cater for the demand during Diwali time. This time around, however, the situation is so bad because of persisting rural distress and elevated prices. Usually, when the import bill of a nation goes down, it's a good thing. And in our case, especially when that happens with items such as crude oil and gold. But the reason why this has happened further puts the blame squarely on the economic crisis the country is going through. However, thanks to the import contraction, the trade deficit in September quarter has narrowed to $38 billion from $46 billion in the June quarter, which will ease pressure on the current account balance. What the government can do to help the problem is to make credit cheaper and more easily available, especially to the MSME sector. Further, methods such as interest equalization support to all agricultural exports, benefits on sales to foreign tourists, and quick refund of GST, especially the input tax credit element, would go a long way in helping the situation. Even though we may live in testing times, when not only the domestic economy is in dire straits, but we are also not receiving any help from the global economy. Especially during such times, government assistance in the form of correct policy action is desperately needed, which unfortunately up till now, we have not had the benefit of. Thank you for watching HW News. This is me signing off. Have a great day.